being strip searched and little kids being groped. I said, if we put up with that, we're in deep trouble. But right now, what I'm sensing is there's a lot of people who are sick and tired of it, and they'd like to change it.
Yeah.
Are still under attack. The real threat to our liberties are here at home. 1 year ago, approximately, our president made an announcement, a change in policy, and that policy was that the president now has the authority, under certain circumstances, as he is to determine, he has the power as commander-in-chief to assassinate American citizens. Oh. Without arrest, without charges, without a trial. And he, in order to prove that, he's already done it on 3 occasions. And also, just recently, the National Defense Authorization Act. You probably didn't know about that from the national TV. They don't talk about it and tell you and warn you about it. But thank goodness, a lot of people that I have met on the campaign trail were very much aware of the danger that was buried in that bill. And of course, the danger is that they repealed posse comitatus, which prohibits the military from being involved in enforcing, domestic law. And now they said that the U.S. military has the explicit authority to arrest any American if you are an associated force as a suspect that might do harm to our country. Associated force, what does that mean? You looked at a web page, you donated to a charity that you thought was authentic, you were in a room, you went to an anti-war meeting. Oh, that's an associated force. So therefore, you can now be a target to be arrested by the military, absolutely denied that you can even talk to an attorney, put in prison indefinitely, some secret prison that does not have to be domestic. That is not what America is all about. We need to spread that message, and we also need to get enough people in Washington to repeal that type of an authority. Economically, we've been in a lot of trouble for a long time. Even as far back as the Depression, it was said that we got into the Depression because we had too much freedom of the marketplace and we had this wicked old gold standard. And guess what? Since that time, they have further undermined our economy, and we are poorer than ever before. We're in worse shape financially than we were in the Great Depression. We were a creditor nation back then, and the size of government was much smaller, and our attitude about civil liberties and overseas spending was quite different. But now, today, once again, we've had the climactic end to a system where we were systematically consuming our wealth. We did this by overspending, promising everybody anything they wanted. I mean, we became the promoters of entitlements for everything from cradle to grave. That people that people could have free education, free medical care, and free everything, free housing, and free food stamps, the whole works. Now, it sounds good, and it's wonderful if that could work. But the government doesn't have anything. They have to steal it from somebody in order to give it to somebody. Now, immediately when we embarked on this notion that an entitlement is a right, which is a very dangerous notion, the results weren't quite yet in because we were so wealthy. But we became a nation that was more concerned about just sort of spreading the wealth around and the government having power and the special interests got control. And generally we forgot about what the principles of liberty were all about. Where does production come from? It comes from your basic right to your life, the right to your liberty, the right to work, and it should be the right to keep the fruits of your labor. Understood that and understood the proper role of government not to be taking care of us from cradle to grave and not running, trying to police the world, guess what? We still wouldn't need an income tax. It wouldn't be necessary. It wasn't necessary up until 1913. that period of time in 1913, a lot changed. We became much more involved in international spreading of our military. Of course, we had the 16th Amendment to the income tax, preparing the way for big government. And also, we had another little event that occurred in 1913, which we should repeal as quickly as possible, and that was the Federal Reserve Act.
And the Fed.
Actually, the Federal Reserve Act, as far as I'm concerned, is an unconstitutional act because the Constitution still says that only gold and silver can be legal tender. You can't print paper money, and there's no explicit authority to have a central bank. And that's the the constitutional argument against it. The economic argument against the Federal Reserve and central banking is they create the crises, they create the bubbles, and the bubbles